Welcome back to our channel. Today we delve into the remarkable life of Jane Greer, the real-life femme fatale celebrated for her unforgettable presence in film noir classics. Renowned for her captivating allure, magnetic screen performances, and the iconic role she portrayed in Out of the Past, Greer became the embodiment of Hollywood's dark enchantment. But beyond the glamour and intrigue lies a woman whose personal journey is every bit as riveting as the character she brought to life. From her early challenges in show business to her transformation into a cinematic legend, and from behind-the-scenes controversies to her enduring influence on classic Hollywood, Greer's story proves that truth can be even more enthralling than fiction. Join us as we uncover the hidden facets of her career, relationships, and timeless legacy. Childhood Betty Jane Greer, born on September 9, 1924, in Washington, D.C., grew up in a family that balanced big dreams with everyday hardship during the Great Depression. She had a twin brother named Donne, an homage to the English poet John Donne, reflecting her parents' deep love for literature and the arts. Her father, Charles, cycled through various sales jobs, pitching everything from oil burners to fire extinguishers, while nurturing a secret passion for inventions, including an ambitious onion-peeling device that never quite took off. The family's financial struggles sometimes meant severe food shortages. In those moments, young Betty Jane and her brother would get by on lemon-flavored candies, which were more a psychological comfort than real nourishment. Meanwhile, her mother, Betty Jane Sr., wrote poetry published in several anthologies from 1932 to 1934, and even contributed a newspaper column in Sarasota, Florida, under the byline Aunt Bird. This backdrop of aspiration amid adversity profoundly shaped the future star's outlook on life. Beyond her love of performing, Betty Jane also showed a surprisingly entrepreneurial spirit. While her father tinkered with inventions, she once helped her mother sell homemade jams at a local market, greeting customers with her naturally warm smile. Family acquaintances recall her as a quick-witted child who enjoyed improvising short skits with her twin brother. Though finances were tight, little moments of creativity, like painting sets out of old cardboard boxes, foreshadowed the resourcefulness she'd rely on in Hollywood. Even then, she had an uncanny ability to switch between heartfelt sincerity and playful charm, traits that would later define her most memorable on-screen performances. From an early age, Betty Jane stood out for her stage presence, competing in talent contests and local beauty pageants, although she never took home any titles. Still, she enjoyed the spotlight, encouraged by her mother's unwavering belief in her artistic potential. At 12 years old, she landed small modeling jobs that introduced her to the glamorous but often unpredictable world of show business. However, at 15, life took a startling turn when she was diagnosed with Bell's palsy, a condition that left the left side of her face temporarily paralyzed. Rather than shy away, she embraced a rigorous self-imposed therapy regimen, forcing her facial muscles to move until she regained control. This discipline not only restored her features, but also honed her awareness of expression, an invaluable skill once she stepped before cameras in Hollywood. When she decided to leave high school during her senior year to pursue singing jobs, it might have seemed impulsive, but her determination paid off. She toured with bands, belting out Spanish tunes by memorizing the lyrics phonetically, despite not fully understanding their meaning, showcasing a fearless commitment to performance. That same fearless spirit shone through when her mother, who worked at the War Department, nominated her to model the uniforms of the newly formed Women's Army Auxiliary Corps. A photo spread in Life magazine spotlighted her natural poise and hinted at the star quality that would soon intrigue powerful figures in Hollywood. This humble start, posed in a military uniform at the tender age of 18, would eventually lead to film noir fame, proving that even in the face of adversity, true talent and determination can shine through. Family. Charles Greer, Jane's father, was a man of restless ambition, constantly changing jobs and chasing inventive ideas, like the time he tried to perfect an onion peeling device he believed would revolutionize kitchen work, though it never quite hit the market. Despite his knack for brainstorming new gadgets, these pursuits didn't bring the financial security the family desperately needed, and they often found themselves struggling to make ends meet. Still, Charles's inventive spirit hinted at the kind of creativity that would later flourish in his daughter. Meanwhile, Jane's mother, also named Betty Jane, but often referred to as Betty Jane Sr., was a poet at heart. She had big dreams of her own, contributing pieces to poetry anthologies between 1932 and 1934, as well as writing a newspaper column in Sarasota, Florida, under the pen name Aunt Bird. Though her own aspirations were never fully realized, she poured her passion into supporting Jane's budding artistic endeavors, fostering a love for performance and self-expression in her young daughter. Their household was a mix of constant hustle and quiet hope, with Charles chasing sales jobs in everything from oil burners to fire extinguishers, and Betty Jane Sr. scribbling poems whenever she could. Adding a special dynamic to the family was Jane's twin brother, Dunn, named in honor of the English poet John Donne, which illustrates just how deeply the arts flowed through their upbringing. Despite the family's modest circumstances, visitors to the Greer household often remarked on how lively it was. Friends recalled late-night discussions about literature, with Charles passionately debating invention ideas, while Betty Jane Sr. read newly drafted poems aloud. Even Dunn, often considered the quieter twin, would occasionally chime in with sharp observations that made everyone laugh. This intellectual and artistic atmosphere gave young Jane the sense that creative expression wasn't just a pastime, but a way of understanding the world, something she'd carry into her acting career. Despite the financial ups and downs and the pressures of the Great Depression, the Greers maintained a strong familial bond that encouraged ambition and imagination. Betty Jane Sr., in particular, displayed unwavering faith in her daughter's potential. It was this mother's blend of gentle guidance and persistent optimism that bolstered Jane's early forays into modeling and stage performance, providing her with both the moral support and the creative push to reach beyond the family's limited circumstances. In the end, the synergy of Charles's inventive instincts, Betty Jane Sr.'s artistic passion, and the sibling connection she shared with Dunn created a unique environment where young Jane could explore her talents without losing sight of the humble roots that shaped her perspective on success. Jane's career trajectory was anything but straightforward, starting off with what seemed like a string of near misses and slow-building opportunities. Her talent first caught the public eye when she appeared almost by chance in a Women's Army Auxiliary Corps, WAC, recruitment video. During these early days, Jane encountered both excitement and disappointment. She was once rumored to be under consideration for a small part in a production that co-starred a young Ava Gardner, but studio politics and conflicting contracts got in the way. An agent who spotted Jane in that WAC video believed her deep voice and intriguing features could make her a breakout star. Yet, for every promising screen test, there were 2 or 3 rejections, often due to casting directors craving more established faces. This pattern of near misses shaped her strong resolve. Jane learned to treat every audition as a stepping stone, no matter how small. Although Paramount took notice, they never signed her to a full contract, and it wasn't until Howard Hughes stepped in that she officially entered Hollywood's orbit. Ironically, those early days under Hughes didn't offer much in the way of breakthrough roles. She found herself under contract, but largely sidelined, hoping for a part that never seemed to materialize. Determined not to remain stuck, she eventually managed to buy out her deal with Hughes, a shrewd move that led her straight to RKO. There, she took on a series of small roles in B-movies like 2 O'Clock Courage, Panamericana, George White's Scandals, and Dick Tracy, gradually honing her on-screen presence, even if the scripts weren't exactly top tier. Her real turning point arrived with They Won't Believe Me, 1947, a film that showcased a depth and range beyond the simple, bad girl roles she had been cycling through. Critics began to take notice, and that momentum carried over into her next project, Out of the Past, also 1947. Starring opposite Robert Mitchum, she delivered what would become her signature performance as a quintessential femme fatale, cementing herself as a central figure in the film noir genre. This role not only shot her salary upward, but also made her one of RKO's most promising stars. Though her official accolades were few, the industry grapevine buzzed about her potential. Several critics' circles praised her scene-stealing work in early noir features, and trade publications lauded her natural intensity and haunting screen presence. Insiders speculated that if not for certain contractual complications, Jane might have been pushed for a Best Supporting Actress nod, especially after her nuanced performance in They Won't Believe Me. It was also rumored that big-name directors like Billy Wilder briefly considered her for roles that ultimately went to other actresses, highlighting her near-miss brushes with major stardom. Yet just as she seemed poised for a steady climb, Howard Hughes returned to the picture, quite literally, by purchasing RKO. Nursing a personal grudge against Jane, he used his new power to stall her career, refusing to cast her in leading roles and effectively blocking what could have been her golden era in Hollywood. As a result, she found herself relegated to smaller or supporting parts, even when paired again with Robert Mitchum in films like Station West and The Big Steal. Realizing that her chances at RKO were dwindling, she made the move to MGM, but there she was only offered mid-level projects like You for Me, The Prisoner of Zenda, Desperate Search, and The Clown. Disappointed by the lack of meaningful roles and facing ongoing health and personal challenges, she opted to take a 3-year hiatus, focusing on family life and allowing herself time to recover. When she returned, it was via independent productions, notably Run for the Sun, 1956, where her strong performance suggested she still had plenty to give. She followed that with Man of a Thousand Faces, 1957, playing opposite James Cagney in a retelling of Lon Chaney's life story. Though neither film approached the landmark status of Out of the Past. Looking for fresh avenues, she shifted toward television, taking guest spots in various series. Brief stints that kept her active in front of the camera, but never elevated her profile the way a major movie role could. In a final bid to reignite her film career, she appeared in Where Love Has Gone, 1964, and The Outfit, 1973. Then in the 1980s, she had a modest renaissance, a key cameo in Against All Odds, 1984, the remake of Out of the Past, followed by small roles in the primetime soap Falcon Crest, and even David Lynch's cult favorite series Twin Peaks in 1990. Although she never took home an Oscar, she remains indelibly linked to the noir tradition, with Out of the Past standing as her undisputed masterpiece. It's the film that firmly etched her name into Hollywood's storied history, proving that even with immense odds stacked against her, Jane Greer had a magnetic screen presence that still captivates fans of classic cinema today. Scandal. Howard Hughes's obsessive control and jealousy cast a long shadow over Jane's rising star, starting the moment he discovered she had married and effectively decided to sideline her career. He was notorious for micromanaging every aspect of the lives of actresses under his wing, and Jane soon became a prime example of his overreach. Behind the scenes, there were whispers that Hughes wasn't just professionally possessive. Some insiders hinted he orchestrated private detectives to keep tabs on actresses he felt had betrayed him. Jane reportedly had to navigate unsolicited midnight phone calls and sudden cancellations of studio appointments. While she rarely spoke of these incidents publicly, close friends said they saw the strain it placed on her. At times, she contemplated leaving Hollywood altogether to escape Hughes's long reach. But her love for acting ultimately kept her fighting for more opportunities. After initially signing her to a contract, a move that offered the promise of major stardom, he quickly pivoted to near-total suppression when she made life choices he didn't approve of. Even more daunting, Hughes eventually purchased RKO, placing Jane directly back under his authority. Rather than nurturing her potential, he used his newfound power to freeze her out of projects, refusing to give her leading roles despite her proven on-screen charisma. In Hollywood's tight-knit ecosystem, Hughes's reputation loomed large. Other studios hesitated to cast Jane for fear of antagonizing him, which meant that even if she technically had no contractual obligations to Hughes, the unspoken threat of crossing him created an invisible blacklist. Not only did this cause Jane to miss out on career-defining roles she had rightfully earned through earlier, standout performances, but it also led to a general reluctance among producers to take a risk on her. As a result, her opportunities narrowed considerably, and she was frequently relegated to secondary parts or projects beneath her talent level. Perhaps the most frustrating aspect was that Jane had already demonstrated her box office appeal and acting range, especially in acclaimed noir films. Yet, while audiences and critics were eager to see more of her, studio executives were careful not to stir the waters with Hughes, who was known for vindictive tactics toward anyone who defied him. This years-long standoff was arguably the marriage. Jane's romantic journey was as eventful as her Hollywood career, beginning with a whirlwind marriage to singer Rudy Vallee in 1943 when she was still quite young. Vallee, significantly older and already an established star, introduced her to a more glamorous lifestyle. Yet their union soon revealed stark differences in both age and temperament. The relationship was riddled with disagreements. Some say Vallee's controlling nature and Jane's budding ambitions clashed, and they ultimately parted ways in 1944. A few years later, in 1947, she wed Edward Lasker, a wealthy producer and attorney who not only understood the entertainment industry, but also proved to be a crucial ally in extricating her from Howard Hughes's oppressive contractual grip. Lasker's support allowed Jane to reclaim some control over her career at a time when it might have otherwise stalled completely. During their marriage, they welcomed 2 sons, Albert and Lawrence, and later a third, Steve, forming the stable family life Jane had long hoped for. Interestingly, despite her turbulent love life, Jane often described herself as a romantic at heart. She believed that each marriage offered lessons, whether it was Vallee's show business savvy or Lasker's legal expertise. While Vallee introduced her to posh Hollywood soirees, it was Lasker's strategic thinking that proved most critical in her battles with studio heads. Even so, she confessed to friends that juggling motherhood with an on-camera career left her perpetually torn between fulfilling her creative ambitions and providing a stable home for her children. Yet even with Lasker's backing, the strains of Hollywood's demands and her own desire to balance work and motherhood took a toll, and the couple divorced in 1963. By 1967, she found companionship again with Frank London, a casting director whose world was less fraught with the high-stakes drama that had colored her earlier relationships. This more subdued partnership allowed Jane to gradually step back from the public eye and focus on raising her children and nurturing her home life. They remained together until Frank's passing in 2001, a loss that deeply affected Jane in her final chapter, underscoring just how entwined her personal narrative was with the shifting fortunes of her Hollywood story. Other relationships. From the start, Howard Hughes played a pivotal yet double-edged role in Jane's life. He was at first the savvy businessman who recognized her promise and signed her to a contract that could have opened every door in Hollywood. But his personal grudges quickly overshadowed that initial support, turning him from a mentor into what Jane would later describe as a career roadblock. She acknowledged that he had a softer side. He could be kind in unexpected moments. But the overarching reality was that Hughes's single-minded control stifled her potential. He bought up RKO, interfered with her professional decisions, and even refused to assign her to new projects if it suited his agenda. This sustained pressure would have been enough to break many aspiring stars, yet Jane still managed to carve out a memorable legacy in spite of his looming presence. A sharp contrast to the tension with Hughes was her friendship and on-screen chemistry with Robert Mitchum. They first dazzled audiences together in Out of the Past, where their dynamic as a femme fatale and a weary detective practically became the blueprint for film noir partnerships. Their bond went beyond the camera, featuring light-hearted pranks and genuine camaraderie offset. They reunited for the big steal, sustaining that warm rapport and proving that when directors gave Jane the right material, especially alongside Mitchum, she delivered in spades. Their effortless interplay often left viewers clamoring for more, reinforcing how important a supportive co-star could be in shaping an actor's career. One surprising bond she formed was with Kirk Douglas during a brief encounter on a charity radio show. He was impressed by her quick wit and offered to introduce her to high-profile casting directors. Though nothing concrete materialized from that gesture, it underscored her ability to forge meaningful connections with Hollywood heavyweights. Beyond the studio lots, Jane occasionally hosted small dinner parties for trusted friends, preferring intimate gatherings to the lavish industry galas that other stars attended. This circle, which sometimes included Jane Russell and a few MGM colleagues, was where she could unwind, swapping stories about tricky directors or comedic on-set mishaps. Beyond Mitchum, Jane formed friendships with notable figures like Jane Russell, who shared similar experiences under Hughes's orbit. While gossip columns of the era thrived on sensational stories, Jane largely avoided the scandalous headlines. Her challenges were less about salacious controversies and more about an industry dominated by powerful moguls who could make or break a performer's career at a whim. Despite these hurdles, her genuine warmth, sharp intuition, and willingness to stay above petty Hollywood drama allowed her to maintain respectful relationships with fellow actors and producers, valuable lifelines at a time when reputations were fragile and the studio system ruled everything. Death. By the early 1960s, years of battling various health challenges, especially the lingering effects of a tropical virus she contracted while filming Run for the Sun, had taken a toll on Jane's heart. In 1963, she underwent major heart surgery, an ordeal that briefly pulled her away from the spotlight. Even so, Her resilience shone through as she continued to accept occasional roles on television, maintaining a gentle presence in the industry without fully returning to the frenetic pace of her earlier career. Settling into a serene life in Bel Air, she pursued smaller screen opportunities, appearing in shows like Falcon Crest, and later making a memorable cameo in David Lynch's cult favorite Twin Peaks. Her final years were marked by a quiet contentment alongside her third husband, casting director Frank London, until his passing in 2001. Only a few months later, on August 24th of that same year, Jane succumbed to cancer at age 76. Though her death brought an end to a journey filled with both triumph and adversity, her enduring legacy, particularly as a defining face of film noir, continues to captivate film enthusiasts and reminds us how, even under great pressure, true talent can find a way to shine. Industry tributes poured in upon news of her passing. Former co-stars lauded her poise, while younger filmmakers discovering film noir praised her timeless grace and emotional depth. A retrospective screening of Out of the Past was quickly organized at a local revival theater in Los Angeles, drawing an unexpectedly large crowd, including fans who brought vintage posters and magazines to honor her memory. In many ways, this final outpouring confirmed what critics had long sensed. Although her career was hampered by powerful forces, her legacy was destined to endure as one of the most spellbinding presences in classic Hollywood. And that's the incredible story of Jane Greer, a true Hollywood icon whose blend of poise, mystery, and undeniable talent continues to captivate audiences decades later. From her path to stardom, paved with personal battles and industry conflicts, to her lasting imprint on the film noir genre, Greer's life demonstrates that genuine resilience and allure aren't confined to the screen. We hope you enjoyed this glimpse into the real woman behind the Femme Fatale facade. If you found her journey as fascinating as we did, be sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay tuned for more untold stories and cinematic legends.